everyone! Before this video gets started, I just want to say that in this video I was working with a new setup, a new camera, and a new mic. So basically everything that could have gone wrong, went wrong. So basically with the camera, it was focused on my background most of the time and not me. So if that annoys you, I'm sorry. Also with the mic, it was blown out, probably because I was either speaking too loud or the mic was too close to my mouth. I really don't know. There's also a humming in the background because I forgot to turn off my fan while filming. So basically this video is a mess, but I don't think that takes away from the fact that it is still a helpful video. It also took me an hour to film, and I'm not gonna refilm it. So despite all these distractions, I am still deciding to put this up because I think it is still helpful, and yeah, that's all I want to say. Hey party people! It's really hard for me to not look in the viewfinder constantly because, not that I'm narcissistic, I mean I am to an extent, but because I always feel like I look bad. So I'm guessing you're here because you are interested in a job at Starbucks. This video can really apply to any barista job. So the main point of this video is just to discuss the interview, or the interviews, plural. You'll see what I'm talking about. My interview was actually today. We can keep that memory going in there. So first I'm just going to discuss my experience before talking about the actual questions itself. I applied back in June at this Starbucks and it is currently August. So they didn't get back to me until 2 months later. So basically the initial call I didn't answer, so they left a voicemail saying like, I know you applied back in June and it is now a lot later, but we were on a hiring freeze, but if you are still interested, we would still like to talk to you about interviewing. So basically I called them back. It was quite a process. I had to call 3 times on 3 different days because the manager was always busy, but eventually I got a hold of the assistant manager. She interviewed me on the spot. What I didn't know was this wasn't an official interview, it was just like a few upfront questions that they asked. So from what I've heard, this initial interview is always on the phone. I've heard a lot of people have the same experience with this, where the initial call they get, if they did answer, in my case I didn't answer, if they did answer, they were given an interview on the spot. So that is just the first interview, and it is less questions than the actual formal interview. But she basically asked me a few questions, and then she liked my answers, and she said, I'd like to call you again to do a formal interview. Right now, we are in a pandemic, so that is why both my interviews were over the phone. But in a normal situation, only your first informal interview would be over the phone, and then your real interview would be meeting up with them at the store. So basically she said she was going to talk to her boss, which is the general manager, just to get approval, but she said that basically I would receive an offer. So then she told me that she would call me tomorrow for the results, but I actually just received an email requesting a background check saying that I got an offer for a job. Basically, I got hired on the spot. I got hired the same day. Same thing, just a few hours in between, you know? Okay, now let's get into the actual questions. So I'm gonna first start out with the informal interview just over the phone. It kind of takes you by surprise. Now this isn't a guarantee that every single Starbucks is gonna do this. Every Starbucks is different, but all the questions they ask will probably be asked to you at some point, no matter which interview it is. So the first question she asked me was, why do you want to work for Starbucks? Seems like a simple question, right? Sometimes the real answer is, I want money. But of course you should never actually say that. Do not say that. Instead, think of other reasons you want to work there, like you enjoy Starbucks or you really like their drinks. Personally, my answer was the fact that, you know, you see like people working at cafes as baristas on TV and movies, and it just seems really fun. And since I have experience in sort of fast food / beverage restaurant, I used that to my advantage and said that in my previous jobs, I've really enjoyed making drinks the most, and I love having a flow and working with people. So a huge thing is customer service. Customer service is probably one of the most important things in these types of retail or restaurant jobs. So as a barista, your job is not only to make drinks, but to greet customers and spark conversations and relationships with them. So you want to be sure that you seem welcoming and you seem like a people person. Some other examples, if you don't have like past job experience to go off of, you can just say you have a passion for coffee, or you just have a passion for making drinks. Another good thing to fall back on if you don't have any work experience is your experience in school. Okay, the second question she asked me was straight up about my availability. So for these types of jobs, to answer this question, obviously you want to be honest about your times for working, because if you're not honest, then they're gonna have an expectation of you that you can't fulfill, and that could lead to you being fired. So first thing is just be honest. If you don't have a ton of availability, focus on when you can work. A lot of people, when they answer this question, they say, oh, I can't work weekends, I can't work Thursday nights, I can't work. They all just focus on when they cannot work. Instead of making this like negative can't work situation, just talk about when you can work. So for me, since I'm in high school, it's kind of obvious that I can't work during school times. Like, it's okay to say like, I can't work during school, but I can work anytime else, which is basically my situation. Now, maybe you are a much more busy person than me with a lot more activities, and if that is your case, you can say I can work Saturday all day, I can work Sunday evenings, I can work Monday evenings. Just don't focus on the times you can't work, just tell them about the times you can. Also, another question that I didn't actually get asked, but I get asked this at other interviews a lot: what are you looking for in terms of pay? Now, if you're actually looking for a specific price for paying, then I guess you can be honest. It's best to either go low, like $10 an hour is always safe, but I think the better option is to kind of brush off the question and act like it doesn't matter to you, because if you say you're willing to work for $10 an hour, if the place is cheap, they're gonna hire you for $10 an hour while everyone is working for $12. Now, no good and honest place would do that to you, but it could happen. Okay, so that was the extent of the initial interview for me. It was very, very short. I know other people have had initial interviews that have deeper questions than that, but basically all those questions were in my second interview. So we will get to that right now, actually. So time for the second interview questions. I did this over the phone. I don't know if that was beneficial to me because I wasn't as stressed or anything, but under normal circumstances, or depending on where you live or which Starbucks you're applying to, this is usually the interview that's going to be in person. So if you are going in person, wear something nice. Okay, second interview question. Okay, one of the hardest questions that seems so simple is describe yourself, or tell me about yourself. You know, the interviewer's like, just tell me about you. Like, what do you like to do? Now, in my opinion, there's no actual way to mess up this question, but there are some ways you can get some extra points on it. So for me, how I would answer this question, whether you want to take my advice or not, is talk about your hobbies. So for example, a good thing for me to say is I have been a part of a robotics team since 5th grade. So I love working with teams. Teamwork is a value that Starbucks has, so it's good to like wrap those things in there. You can also throw in any volunteer jobs that you do. Like, I volunteer with little kids at camps, so I love working with people. Customer service. You can also talk about a pet, because a pet shows responsibility. Another good answer for this is talking about your goal in life. If you do have some huge goal in life that you're determined to get, it will show that you have motivation. You see the trend whenever I put my hand up, that's a value. That's a good thing to wrap into your answer. But an important note on this question, don't go on and on. Like, I have so many hobbies, I've been a part of a ton of clubs, and they all show responsibility and customer service and all the values, but I'm not going to talk about all of them because that is just a bore. Keep it short and sweet and simple. Don't go on and on about it. Next question you might get is about your past work experience if you have one. If you don't have one, then they won't ask you about it. And I think this is a pretty simple question. Just talk about the responsibilities you have. Like, I had to wash dishes, I had to make food, make drinks, be a cashier, clean. We basically did everything at my old job. Okay, and then the next few questions I got were a lot about teamwork. So Starbucks really values teamwork and not leaving anyone hanging, but also like following the rules. Being able to work as a team is like one of their most valued things. So the question I got was, what was one time you helped a team reach a goal? And this can either be project at school or your past work experience or volunteer experience. Just when was a time you helped a group of people reach a goal? So if you're a person like me, I don't really have specific situations that pop up into my head for these questions. Like, when someone asks me this question, my initial response is, I don't remember. But if you kind of size it down a little bit and you realize that pretty much everything you do when you're with a group of people is going towards a goal. So I basically talked about how in my old job we would try to close as fast as we can. That's always a cute little race thing to do, is see how fast you can close. We kind of developed a system where one person would work on dishes and the other person would basically do everything else in the store, because dishes was the biggest task of the night. So just try to think of the little things, like if the goal is to be fast in closing, if the goal is to get the dishes done, if the goal is to finish this school project by this date, just think smaller. Okay, and then another question that is actually pretty similar to this is to name a time when you made a suggestion to make something better. Now, this question is kind of the same as the last question. So I honestly can't remember what I said, because I'm pretty sure I said the exact same thing as the last question, just in different words. But she took it, so. They'll also ask you about your experience in customer service. I don't know if I already went over that, but you know, customer service is like one of the most important things in this job. So, and you basically just want to say that you're a people person and that you're extroverted and you like to make relationships and conversations. Okay, so then there's a part of the interview where all the questions are situational. So basically the interviewer will give you a situation that you were in and they would ask you how you would handle it. So the obvious question that you always get asked is, how would you handle an upset customer? So I basically said, hopefully there are no tensions and no one's yelling, but if anyone is, and if there are any tensions, I would de-escalate the situation, make sure everyone's calm, just handle the situation at hand. And then I also said, it is always important to keep a positive and empathetic attitude, sort of like the customer is always right. And then after everything is de-escalated, you would ask, what's the problem? Like what's wrong with your drink and how can we fix it? So usually the answer to fix it is to remake the drink or refund them, as long as it follows the company's policies. So let's go through the steps again for that question.
How do you deal with an upset customer?
Well, in short, it is de-escalate the situation, stay positive, stay empathetic, customer is always right, ask how you can fix the situation as long as it's a part of the company's policies. That's pretty much how you answer that question. Okay, and then another question I got asked is, if you saw
Not a customer.
If you saw a coworker doing something wrong, what would you do? So basically how I answer this question is, if I saw a coworker doing something wrong, usually it's just because they forgot how to do something, which is okay. I would just go up to them and say, hey, isn't this how you do that? And they're like, oh yeah, I forgot, because sometimes people just don't want to ask. Just assume that they forgot and be positive and empathetic because Starbucks loves teamwork and getting along with people. So if you're gonna act aggressive, they're not gonna want you. So just assume the best, assume they just forgot how to do something and you politely correct them, and then we go on our way, and that is how you deal with that situation. Another question I got asked was, say you're going to a restaurant or store that you go to a lot. What makes it an amazing experience for you? So what I said is, I love it when the workers there have a positive attitude and just sound really like uppity and energized. Okay, they also might ask about how you are under stress or in a fast-paced work environment. What I usually say, which is actually very true, is I work better when I always have something to do. Also say that you work better under stress. Even if you don't, just say it. Unless you don't want the job, then I don't know why you're interviewing. Also, if you go to a Starbucks interview in person at the actual Starbucks, you do get a free drink. Usually they will ask you if you'd like a drink. In my opinion, you should always say yes. That's not like for any specific reason, but you know, they ask that because they want to like offer you a drink, and also like, why not? It's a free drink. But if you do ask for an actual drink, I've heard that there is an actual way that you're supposed to say the drink in the Starbucks world, and it's not how people usually say it. Usually, if I wanted a venti iced chai latte, I would say I want a venti iced chai latte. But in the Starbucks world, that is apparently not how you're supposed to say it. There's a specific order. You know, you don't need to know that, but I suppose it would give you extra points if you already knew that. You can probably look it up. Okay, that is pretty much all the questions that I can remember, but at the end of the interview, they will ask you if you have any questions for them. If you do genuinely have questions, it's good to ask them, but I know usually I don't actually have any questions, but it is always good to ask a question or two at the end of the interview just to show that you are interested and that you are actually taking this whole thing into consideration and listening. So some good things to ask about are, what is training like? How long does it usually take people to memorize drinks? What are the benefits and perks of this job? You can also ask what the work environment at that specific store is like, because every store is different. If you're ballsy enough, you can ask about the pay. I honestly don't think there's anything wrong with that question. It's a genuine question, and as long as you act like it doesn't matter, it'll be fine. Okay, so that is basically the whole interview done, but I'm going to also tell you guys about some of the benefits of working at Starbucks, because I'm sure you guys are curious. So what she told me that the benefits were is you get 30% off of Starbucks drinks when you are not working, and when you are working, 3 free drinks during your shift, which is a lot, plus a meal item, which is like a sandwich, which is awesome. That is so much. Also, Starbucks offers healthcare insurance. They also offer mental health therapy. You also get a free subscription to the app. I forgot the app's name. It'll be up here, but it is a meditation app. Also, for the perks and benefits, I don't think those same benefits apply to the Starbucks that are inside of other stores like Target or airports or like Jerry's Foods. But yeah, that is basically it. Be sure to leave some questions in the comments or suggestions for future videos that you want to see, and I really hope this is helpful for some people. I know there are already a ton of videos about this out there already, but I find it useful to watch a bunch of different people make the same video about jobs so that I can get different perspectives, because every store, every manager, every person is different. Be sure to subscribe. I would love to have you on this journey with me, and like the video if you liked it and want to see me do more Starbucks videos in the future, assuming that I like the job. But yeah, that's it. I don't know how to end videos. Bye. Oh was recording for an hour, what the hell?